Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. Dana here. Today I will be showing you how to make 3 different Christmas cards, all using the All Occasion bow from Spellbinders. This is from their Merry and Bright collection. This is one of the new collections that was just released. If you're interested in any of the Spellbinders products, I will have everything linked below. Now, these are affiliate links. If you choose to shop through these links, it does help support me, and I do greatly appreciate it. I encourage you to use what you have. If you have a big bow die set in your stash, then you can easily recreate these cards. Now let's get on to the making. For this first card, I started out die cutting all the pieces out of some paper that I had gel printed with several different colors of distress ink. For the main bow, it's colored with Tattered Rose. For the lighter stripes, those ones were colored in Worn Lipstick, and the darker stripes were colored in Festive Berries. And here I'm just adhering everything down with my Bearly Arts liquid glue. I have found the easiest way to put these bows together is to put the stripes on first and then assemble the bow itself. Using the Stocking Full of Joy die set, I die cut the Joy sentiment out of some gold cardstock, and I'm just adhering that down with my liquid glue. For the background of this card, I'm going to go ahead and use the Peppermint Stripes embossing folder. This is in the same collection as the All Occasion bow. I wanted to do an inked embossing folder background, so I'm just taking my Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide ink and rubbing it on the embossing folder following the lines. This is the side of the embossing folder that has the name on it, so this is actually going to be debossed into the cardstock itself. To give it a little more pizzazz, I splattered the background with my gold liquid acrylic. Then I'm just adhering that panel down onto a white A2 card base. To give the bow a bit of dimension, I went ahead and popped that up on some foam squares, and I'm just adhering that to the card front. And then here's the final first card. I'm definitely loving the non-traditional Christmas this year. For the second card, I went a little bit more traditional. To start, I cut out all the base pieces from the All Occasion bow, and I'm going to go ahead and add a bit of color to those with my Antique Linen Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just adding that on with my blending brush. And then to darken it up a bit and give it a little bit of texture, I went in with brushed corduroy, and I'm just doing my paper towel technique here. And then I took the Ticking and Grain stamp set from Tim Holtz, and I put that in my MISTI, and I'm going to go ahead and ink that up in Aged Mahogany. And I'm going to stamp that onto the bow pieces, and I just line them up in my MISTI. I wanted to add a bit more texture to the bow, so I took the Woven Texture Fade by Tim Holtz, and I'm going to go ahead and add a bit of texture. Here I just added a piece of scrap copy paper to my embossing folder, and I'm putting the bow pieces ink side down on that piece of paper. This just helps my embossing folder stay clean so I don't have to wash it later. You can totally skip this step. And then I'll go ahead and glue the bow together using my liquid glue. To start off the background for the card, I took a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cardstock and put that in my splat box. And then we go ahead and spray it with a couple different Distress Oxide sprays. The first one that I'm using is Lumberjack Plaid, and then going in with some Rustic Wilderness. And to grunge it up a bit, I went in with Walnut Stain as well. And to add a bit more texture, I just went in and misted it with some water and then dried it off with my heat tool. Once that background was dry, I cut it out using the Stitched Starry Argyle die from Spellbinders. Now this is one of their stitched dies, but you do not have to stitch it. I ran it through just like it is and used it just like it is, just to add a bit more texture to the background. And then I used the same die set to cut out the joy again from some gold cardstock. Now for this card, I wanted it to look a little bit more aged and more grungy. So after I die cut everything, I went ahead and colored that little joy piece with some foundry wax. This is the color Mind. Now here I ended up squirting out way too much from the bottle. I actually had a clog in that bottle. You don't need this much. You can use probably half this amount that I have here. And here's the way it looks. I just love how it looks like a rusted piece of metal. And then I'll go ahead and glue that panel down on a craft card base using my liquid glue. And then again, I chose to pop the bow up on some foam squares and adhere that to the front of the card. And then here's the finished vintage card. And for the third card, I went a bit more non-traditional again. To start off, I cut out all of the base bow pieces, and I'm going to color those up using my Antique Linen Distress Oxide ink. And I did want to add some stripes to this one, but I didn't want to use the die cut pieces. So instead, I inked up the Peppermint Stripes embossing folder in my Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide ink. And then I'll run those through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And I did this the same exact way that I did the background on the first card. And then for the background of this card, I again took a piece of cardstock and I put it in my splat box. And I'm going to spray it with a couple of the Distress Spray stains this time. I'm going to use Tattered Rose, Worn Lipstick, and Saltwater Taffy. And I'll just alternate those 3 sprays until I get the look that I want. Once everything was dry, I did want to add a bit more texture, so I'm just going to go ahead and splatter that background with my white gouache. Now this little container I have is just one that I had in my stash from all my Bath and Body products that I make. So I just put the white gouache in there and then I just add a bit of water every time I want to use it. The water does reactivate the gouache, and then I just let it dry out in between uses. Once everything was dry, I went ahead and cut that background out again with the same Stitch Starry Argyle die from Spellbinders. And then I'm just adhering the bow together with my liquid glue. And then I'll glue the card panel on a white card base, also using my liquid glue. Then I glued the joy into the same spot as the other cards, but I didn't do anything to change it. And then again, just adding some foam squares and popping the bow up onto the card base. And then here's the third and final card. You'll have to let me know in the description box below which one is your favorite, 1, 2, or 3. If you haven't, please go ahead and pamper that like button. Show it a little love. I do greatly appreciate it. And as always, take some time to pamper your inner goddess, and I will see you in the next one.